Last week, we talked about Hogwarts Legacy and the performance it's getting on various GPUs. Now, in that video, I was talking about a benchmark ran by Tech PowerUp that showed the A770 absolutely slaughtering the 7900 XTX. Needless to say, a lot of 7900 XTX owners were not happy about that video. It is probably the most disliked video on the channel. Long story short, don't listen to one person, don't listen to one test. Everybody has different components, different setups. Everything is different, and that should also mean that tests can have different results. I still find Tech PowerUp's bench extremely valid, considering they might not have the same parts that other people have that have tested this, and they've also might have tested in different locations. If you're testing within Hogwarts Castle itself, you are going to get way more FPS than if you were testing out in the open world, particularly in certain areas that are just dogging FPS. Some people are putting up reviews and benchmarks that we have no idea where they're benching from within the game. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying the A770 is better than the 7900 XTX at all. I'm just saying that in this one test, it showed that Intel might be here to play ball. That's not what we're talking about in today's video, though. Today's video is dedicated to us NVIDIA users. That's right. If you're using an NVIDIA GPU, maybe you've noticed that the DLSS performance within Hogwarts Legacy is pretty booty cheeks. However, we may have a solid fix to boost performance for that DLSS setting when it comes to this game. Last week, reports were circling around that the game actually launched with a older version of DLSS, and this might be the reason why people are seeing lower frame rates or lower consistent frame rates while using DLSS in game. The version that launched with the game actually came out in September of last year, maybe even earlier. So if you are having issues with frame rate while using DLSS, this fix might be for you. Definitely took care of the problem for me, or at least helped it out quite a bit. Now, the solution for this is a neat little application that we found on GitHub called DLSS Swapper. I'll leave a link to that application down in the description down below, and while you're down there, consider leaving a like on the video. Now, DLSS Swapper is a neat little tool. Basically, it functions kind of like GeForce Experience, how it scans through your hard drives for games. This does that too. It'll scan through your hard drive, look for games, and it will give you the version that that game is currently running for DLSS. It also allows you to swap it out. To get started, we'll download a portable version of the application and extract the files to a folder on your machine somewhere that you can find it. Within this folder, open up the DLSS Swapper application. Keep in mind you may need to run the application as admin. I had to, otherwise the game tab would not populate with any games. The first thing that we need to do is go to the library icon off to the left. This is where you can find every available version of DLSS that is out there. You can choose which version you want, or you can choose to export all of them. For this video, I have simply only downloaded version 3.1.1. Now we go back to the Games tab, and if nothing is showing up after about 15 to 30 seconds, close out of the application, reopen it again, and the game should populate. Now we're going to go to the Game tab again if you had to reboot it, and you should see all your games with DLSS support. Actually, it might show all of your games. You can go to the filter icon on the top right hand of your screen, and you can select to only show DLSS supported games. Click the game that you want to swap the DLSS files out of. For the case of the video here, we want to swap out Hogwarts Legacy. You click on the game, a pop-up window will appear asking you to select the DLSS version. Here we pick 3.1.1 and select swap. Now, I've already done this, so to show you the process, I'm going to do this for Doom Eternal. Keep in mind, there shouldn't be anything to worry about while doing this, but if a multiplayer game scans, it sees files that should not be there, i.e. a version of DLSS that isn't meant to be there, I suppose you could get a ban or be barred from playing the game until you change that file back. So make a note of what version the game is running before you swap it out, so if you have to swap it back, you don't have to play the guessing game. This is why I've only done this for single player games or games with multiplayer that I don't plan on playing multiplayer with, i.e. Doom Eternal. I click it, I select my new version of DLSS, I hit swap. I've also noted down that this game was on 2.3 just in case anything decides to break. This should be fine. Now, upon entering Hogwarts Legacy after I applied this update, we did notice a 15 to 20 FPS increase. Not only was there an increase in FPS, but we also saw that it was more consistent all around, hovering around the 100-ish frames instead of being at 100 and dropping to 80 and going back up to 100. It was more so within that 100 and slightly under range. So it was definitely improvement. If you want to try this out for yourself, as mentioned, I will leave a link in the description down below. And while you're down there, consider hitting the subscribe button as well. I would also be super curious to know if you do decide to try this out, if it helps at all with the performance of DLSS enabled video cards specifically for you. So let me know in the comments down below. Guys, it's a video. If you liked it, like it. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.